Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Lagerquist. I'm at Vine Faith in Action. Please excuse the vacuum next door. That'll shut down really soon. But we are here as part of our Vine author series today. We're talking to an author, but we're also talking to a publisher of Fox Point Publishing. That would be Kiersten Hall. She is going to be here to talk a little bit about her own story, how she went from author to publisher, and to talk a bit more about the process that books go through from idea and writing to being able to hold them in your hand and to sell them to eager people who want to read about your work. So I'm going to step aside and mute myself, and here is Kiersten.
All right, good afternoon, and thank you for having me today. Much appreciated. I can't hear the vacuum cleaner, so we're good. Anyway, all right. Yes, back in 2005, I decided to write a book, and I know that some of you are memoir people with the Vine group and such. Okay, well, my first book was a memoir because between the years of 1990 through 2005, 6, somewhere in there, I shot professional wedding videography. So I was the person that made all the movies of all the weddings. And I have personally been to 1,403 weddings in my life. And let's just say I've seen things. I've seen lots of things. So my first book back in 2005 was I Do. Yep. 15 years of wedding misadventures. There's a lot of stuff in here. And actually, when I used to go and shoot weddings, people would be like, oh, I bet you have great stories and I bet they're really funny. And I'm like, well, some of them are pretty interesting. And they're like, you should write a book. And I was like, oh, yeah, one of these days, Well, it occurred to me in 2005, after seeing all these weddings and all the really cool stuff I've seen, yeah, I should probably write a book because I just knew that getting older, I'd probably start to forget. And sure enough, 16 years after the fact, I'm starting to forget. So I even read this book like, oh, cool. Yeah, I remember this. So it's probably good that I wrote this. But yeah, this is my first book. And put that out in 2005. And I republished in 2014, mainly because, well, there were some different things I wanted to do. But I had the forethinking back in 2005 to print off the manuscript because by the time 2013 rolled around, that computer, that motherboard was not turning on anymore. And so I had to retype this entire book on a laptop where the letter E did not work. It was fun. Okay, well, anyway, so that is that book. And I had it scores really well on Goodreads and Amazon, and people like it, and it's funny, and it's my humorous memoir. Anyway, in 2016, I was sitting in Perkins one day, and let me back up. In 2005, when I put that book out, I had all sorts of other ideas coming on and such, and I thought, oh, this would be great. But I wrote them down. I wrote different outlines and different story starts and all that good fun stuff. But at the time, I had 4 kids that I had to raise. So between tying shoes and swimming lessons and potty training and everything that goes with that, I put all of those on hold. So, but I'd come up with like 10 other different stories, and I was figuring, okay, when they all become, independent and not worrying about, if I had to make their food or not, I'll get back to that. Well, in March of 2016, I was sitting in Perkins with a friend of mine having, our, what is it, the third or fourth meal of the day, which is a slice of pie and coffee at 3 p.m. because that's required. Yeah. And it occurred to me while I was sitting there, and she was actually telling me about how her son-in-law's newest hobby was petty theft. And I thought, why are you telling me this? And then I thought, oh, he doesn't live by us, does he? And he didn't, so that was good. But it occurred to me while she was telling me this, that everyone in that restaurant has secrets that you would not tell. I mean, we have our public facade, and then we have that whole skeleton-filled closet back there. And so my friend Cheryl, she just kept talking, and really my little hamster got on the wheel, and I started thinking of storylines, and I thought, oh, well, I probably don't know a whole lot about anyone, so, this is not going to go anywhere. Plus, I can't because I like to try to be organized and methodical. And I had 10 other manuscripts are started, so I have to do these in order so I can feel organized. Except I'm like, oh, but this could be lots of fun, and I bet I could write it out really fast. So anyway, Corner Confessions came out. There are 14 confessions in here. These are all true confessions, people I know. We have changed the names and we call it fiction, and I can leave the house. Isn't that great? But there are 14 in here and they run the gamut. I mean, from good, feel good, pay it forward to all the way to, oh my gosh, and everything in between. Plus then the characters in the fictional coffee shop that it happens, Corner Confessions, it happens in the back corner. This person, people come in and kind of do a confessional, if you will, with this person. There's no accountability because she doesn't know them. They just get it off their chest. People like to talk about themselves. You think about what a bartender or a hairdresser hears, that kind of stuff. And so anyway, yeah, 14 in here, and that came out in 2016. And then, and like I said, I didn't think I knew a whole lot of things about people, but then I went home and I came up with like 52 things I knew about people. I'm like, oh boy. So 14 in here, there are 16 in here, The Lives We Live. And again, what I was saying with the fictional coffee shop, all those fictional characters in that coffee shop also have secrets and stuff. So it's a whole interesting thing. Now, I was telling Mike earlier that I was supposed to, because this book came out in 16, that one, 16 and 18. So I was going to have the other one come out in 2020, but I got busy and there's more to that. So there's a third in that set, and then it'll be 51. Okay, and then in 2019, for whatever reason, the artistic bug in me, I guess, showed up. I'm not a poetic person by any means, but I came up with a poem, and it took me about 45 minutes to write this book. And this is my first children's book, Jelly Beans. It teaches about anti-bullying and acceptance and all that kind of thing. And that was June of 19. And then September of 2020, I came out with The Blue Frog. And that's, my mom actually came up with Blue Frog because, when you have little kids in the house and then you're like, okay, who left, the bathroom sink on? Everyone's like, ow. And she would be like, well, it must have been the Blue Frog. And we're like, yeah, of course it was the Blue Frog. So that's for my mom. And then my 6th book comes out actually here in June. But so that's all that stuff. But what happened is when we were putting together Jelly Beans, okay, now my daughter and I were the co-publishers of Box Point Publishing, and my daughter has done all of my design work. She does all my editing work, all that kind of stuff. Our books were, I don't know, probably seen in the newspaper, or no. I was going to do a writing course I live in Austin, Minnesota, and I was going to do a writing course for the community ed, springtime community ed thing in 2019. And someone who had written her own series of children's books had seen it and went into the local bookstore and asked about, me and if I was legit and all that good stuff. And so got in touch with me, and she's like, you have to help me with my books. And I'm like, I'm busy and I have children and I've got a full-time job and oh my gosh. She goes, no, please, please, please. I'm like, okay, we'll give it a whirl. And so my daughter, Chelsea, I'm like, well, why don't we just help her out? And, that'll be our good thing for the year or whatever. Anyway, so Carmen Tribbett came on, and she was our very first author. And she does the Monster Dog series. We put out her 2nd book in October of 2019, and then republished her 1st book in January of 20, put out her 3rd book in March of 20, so just 2 months later, and then put out her 4th book in November of 2020. She's currently working on her 5th and 6th books, and she just passed her 89th birthday. So she is a busy woman. is about the best way of saying it. She does presentations all over the place and all that. So anyway, we picked up Carmen, and other people started catching on to us. So January 1st of 2020, just in time for a pandemic, so good planning on our part, yes. We started Fox Point Publishing. We figured, well, you know, if we can do this for Carmen and she seems happy about it, and we've got all of my books, you know, we'll do this. And so people started coming out of the woodwork and hitting us up. And now, we are not a traditional publisher because, as I tell people, as much as I would like to pay people for their manuscripts, I haven't won the lottery yet, and I was not born into a family with deep pockets. And if they have deep pockets, they haven't told me yet. So there you go. We are a hybrid publisher, but I am taking it from an author's point of view. So although there's money up front, I have heard that we are very reasonable compared to others. And I have a sales background of about 34 years, probably about 35 or 36 actually, and I've been self-employed for 33 years, I think. Anyway, so I know how to help people make money and all of that, and the marketing and the networking and everything that goes with it. So I share those tips, and most of my authors will make their money back. And needless to say, when COVID stops being around and the world opens up, oh my gosh, the party will start. But yeah, I will show you some of the books that we have done in the last, today is April. So in about the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks, we are to the point, we have 21 authors right now, including myself, 21 authors. And we've got, I think, 3 or 4 more coming on before the end of April. But okay. Let's see, most recent that we put out here, this is a children's book, The Best Magic of All. It's about a troll, and it talks about, this is actually first out of a 5-book series, a woman out of Northern Illinois. Her name is Paula Basinger-Morhart. She actually does children's books, cookbooks, poetry, and she wrote a couple memoirs herself. And this is, yeah, about the first of a 4 or 5 book series, and it's Gray Valley, has lessons for kids. She used to be in the education world, so there's a lot of lessons learned for kids in there, but anti-bullying and friendship and acceptance and all that kind of thing again. This one is Kim Hanzo. This is the second in the World of Difference series, and this one talks, the 6 books talks about, well, this one in particular talks about being good to our planet and all the animals, and basically in the fact that we only have one planet Earth, so you know we should be good to it because there is no plan B. But anyway, this is like I said, the second out of a 6-book series, and Kim Hanzo is actually out of North Carolina. She is also one of our illustrators. And so this is the first series she has with us. She's got another second series coming out into 2022, and has some standalones as well. But she's incredibly talented. Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? Everyone that we work with at Fox Point is incredibly talented. I mean, my daughter is Chelsea, the co-publisher. So Chelsea and I are extremely blessed, and man, we know it. And the people are incredible. I can't say enough good things about them. Okay, this is one of Paula's cookbooks. This is the second in the 13-book series. It comes out on a quarterly basis for about 3 years. So January, April, July, and October 1st, these come out. It's a combination of personal essays, and she comes from a long line of cooks. She's got 4 generations of recipes in these books. And for the people who live out where she lives, they're very lucky because she has to sample all these. She makes these recipes to make sure that, you know, they're good. So they get free food, free treats from Paula. And then on here, actually, oh, okay. On February 23rd, Shadow Speak came out. This is a 430 page book. This is a psychological thriller by Raven Ekman. She is out of Pennsylvania. She is also actually one of our top editors. She came on with us last April, and about June, she said, you know, I have this manuscript that I've been writing for about the last 6 years. Would you be interested in looking at it? So this book, you know, Mike had mentioned the timing and stuff. This came in last June and came out in February. And that was rather fast at it. Most novels and longer books look at least a 9-month to 12-month window, because it's a lot of work. But, you know, like with children's books, if you're looking at 100 words, you know, you can take, you know, maybe half an hour to edit it, maybe an hour. It's the illustrations, but still illustrations can move. They snap along in about 2 or 3 weeks, could be 4 weeks. So per novel, we can put out probably 4 children's books. So, and then we have a lot of different teams. We have 2.5, 3 illustrators right now. We're looking at getting our 4th illustrator on. Our editing department's at about 6. We have 2 designers. So well, right now we run a book every 7 to 10 days. A new book comes out. And right now we're looking at about 36 titles, active titles. And by July 1st, we should have about 50 active titles. So we just pop right along. And then this one might be familiar to you, being that most of you are from Mankato. Does anyone here know Jason Lee Willis? He does the what are they? The Fire Handler Chronicles. Well, this is his first out of the Alchemist series, the Alchemist Chronicles, the first out of 4 books. He lives in Mapleton. He's a creative writing English teacher out of Mapleton High School. And this one is probably about 550 pages. This is a big one. And if you enjoy, well, okay, his words, and they're perfect for it. It's about Joseph Nicollet. And this right here is actually a profile of the real Joseph Nicollet. But it is a Bilbo Baggins character goes on an Indiana Jones adventure written in the style of Dan Brown, who did the Da Vinci Code. It is an awesome book. Love it, love it, love it. Jason is a good writer. And I actually met him at a book show. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Deep Valley Book Festival in Mankato. I met him at the Deep Valley Book Festival in 2017, I think. So yeah, and I've read some of his other stuff too, but fun book. And I will point out too, Shadow Speak, that one is kind of like a psychological Stephen King. So if you're into that kind of stuff, it's not horror and blood and gore, but it'll mess with you. So, you know, and she is actually a creative English major as well. Yeah. So, and then in the beginning, no, this one was February 20th. This one came out. Bobby Bear Becomes a Big Brother. And this is, the illustrations are by Kayla Olson Surface, who is one of our other incredibly talented illustrators. I mean, I'm just impressed with these because I can't draw. So, I mean, they do such an incredible job. And if any of you attended the Cabin Fever of Deep Valley Book Festival, both Kim and Kayla did dual illustrators workshop. If you guys happen to see those, Kayla and Kim are both illustrators with us, and we are blessed beyond blessed to have them. Anyway, so that is basically what we do. We put a lot of books together. Now, Mike had mentioned that I'm the gopher. I really am. as I explained to people that are coming on, if it's anything to do with book production, any questions, whatever, book production, talk to Chelsea. She's the head of the editing department. She's the one that accepts manuscripts. And I will go back to when I said hybrid publisher. We are not a vanity press. We actually, well, let's see, the first week of February, Chelsea sent out 8 rejection letters. Not everyone makes the cut around here. We are incredibly, extremely picky for what we put Box Point Publishing logo on. If it's not good, it's not happening. Because as I explained to people, the time and money I have personally invested into this company is not a fly-by-night situation. We are picky people. There's no doubt about it. But we do a darn good job, and we get the job done, and we have happy people. So, and I have known in the last 30 plus years I've been self-employed, happier people are fun to work with. Not happy, they're not that fun. So I'd rather go with the happy type. But yeah, that's basically what we do. Does anyone have any questions?
Who does your
Bart?
actual printing?
What?
Who does your actual printing of the books?
Oh yeah. Now I talked with what's her name? Who's her last name starts with an L that is putting together your Vine memoir? Is it Barb? Well, okay, anyway, I talked to someone. Lakeside Printing out in Wilmer. That is the person, or she's the company that Laura at Lakeside Printing, and I sent Laura's information actually to 2 people that are, now see, this is my bad memory.
There's a Barb Jackman.
No.
Linda Good.
Whose last name
Linda
starts
Good.
with an L?
Linda Good. Linda
Okay.
Good or Laura.
I have no idea. I'd have to look back at my emails, but yeah, it's Lakeside Printing. And if you've got a pen, I'll tell you what her email is. It's Laura, Laura, at Lakeside, Lakeside, creates, creates.com. So Linda at Lakeside creates.com, or no.
Laura.
Oh my gosh. Laura. Oh my gosh, I'll get this right. Laura at lakesidecreates.com. Tell her that Kiersten with Fox Point, this will jog her memory, because I've already talked to her about you guys and the memoir that Vine is doing. And yeah, and Mike, if you want, I can when we're done here, I'll find that email and forward it to you with all the pertinent information that I sent to whoever it was a couple months ago.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, Barb.
As you know, there are 22 memoirs people publishing a collection of 58 memoirs. What general advice do you have for us? We've made the selections, we have edited them, we have proofed them. We're now trying to, Karen is the chair of our layout committee. We're organizing them into sections. From your experience, what mistakes can we avoid? Since this is a first effort on our part.
Well, it sounds like you've got, the whole, okay, back up. Sounds like you got everything up to the formatting.
Right.
Do you have someone down, and I don't know, I had also referred our designer, Becca Hudson, to this person. I cannot for the life of me remember the name, but she vacations in Arizona, I think.
Laura.
Okay, sure. Okay, yeah, it would be Laura, because I was remembering that Laura and Laura. Okay, I sent an intro email to both of them. I'm like, Laura, this is Laura. Laura, this is Laura. Okay, so yeah, okay. Yeah, I had referred our designer, Becca Hudson, and she does an incredible job with absolutely everything. And she works with Laura at Lakeside very well. has been for coming up on a year now. And so knows what Laura needs for cover templates and pages and gutters and trim sizes and all that good fun stuff. So really what I would do is if you go with Lakeside, go with Becca, and really then you just send your file to Becca, go, here you go, thank you very much. And she'll take it from there.
We've got some steps in between, Kiersten. Hi. I'm also part of this group. And so I think what Barb was saying, that we have stories, we have a bit of an organizational system of how we want to put the stories together. And I don't know the words, but it's clear that different fonts will lead to more and less. So we have an idea about number of pages. We have a list of the stories and the order, and we are hiring Becca, and she knows that. So that part's already linked up. And Juana and I had worked with Linda Good on the grant. And so it was Linda and Laura that were kind of communicating with people. And we wrote an arts grant to try to get help with printing costs. So we've done those pieces. And Karen, you might be more articulate here. And I know there's a lot of people on this call that have nothing to do with this book. So I want to leave room for other people, to bring forward whatever they want. But so we have the, Times New Roman 12, which is what we're putting it in. But we want to put in pictures, and we get different advice about start each story on the right side of the page. And we're thinking, well, how do we know, about space and what to do? And we'll talk to Becca about how do we send things to her, but there's steps in between, and we're also with this. And
actually, if you send her everything, Becca takes care of everything. So actually, you're probably minimizing a lot of the extra steps. Send her the photos. She'll lay it out for you. She does the, okay, here, let me show you here. Okay, so she'll let you know exactly the different fonts and the type size and all that kind of stuff. So okay, so let's see here. But I know what you're talking about, and so
we don't know yet. We don't know yet what the photos are. So like one person might have a photo they want to put in, but maybe nobody else has photos, and we have an art team, and there's people that are willing to do things, but we don't, and Becca said, just tell me where you want it, but we don't even know what the what is, or where there'll be space. And I think one of the questions we're looking at is with like bios of people. And some people are saying, well, we should have 40 to 50 words, and that could get kind of long. And do we put them near a picture? So there's a lot of things to decide. And I'm not like asking you to tell us all those things, but how do we think about all of this? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm a pen and paper person, so I would get out some paper and a pen and put down all the ingredients basically that you want in your book. You've got your bios, and you've got your pictures, and you've got your pictures that go with the memoir part, and how many memoirs, and basically you're storyboarding your book. You're putting it together and kind of giving everyone a rough idea of where everything is going to go. Definitely send that storyboard to Becca once you guys get it finalized. It doesn't have to be, specifically great. I mean, it can be sketched out. Well, okay, you have two different ways of doing it. One, you can do it through Google Docs or Word, and you can set up your trim size for your book. Is it a 5.5 by 8.5 or a 6 by 9?
We're hoping 6 by 9.
Okay, so you're going to set up your trim size in your Google Docs or your Word doc and set it up as a 6 by 9. And then you're going to figure out what your margin size is. It's typically a half inch, on the sides, well, actually it's 1/2 inch on the outside, and then you're going to bring it in a little further for the gutter, which is, you know, in the binding there, than whatever your header and your footer is. So, you know, if you want to give yourself, if it's a 6x9, give yourself a 5x8 type space of where you can put in pictures and words and that kind of thing. I would try to mix it up, maybe rather than going with the Times New Roman, which is so standard, maybe a Garamond or something. But then again, Becca can help you with.
She'll be translating it for us. We just wanted all of ours to be in the same, so it could be flipped easy.
Yeah. So when you're on the computer, then it'll set it out. It'll lay it out on your computer screen, so you can put in the blocks of text or insert a picture or wherever, and it'll lay it out for you. You can send that file to her, or if you want to do a quick, you know, kind of a quick version, at least with the extraneous parts, you know, the stuff in the beginning, your index and whatever. And if you put all your bios in back, you know, however you want to do it, you know, how kids will even make their own books by taping or stapling a bunch of papers together. You know, if you're someone who needs that, not on a computer, I do it, you know. Of course, everyone else at Fox Point laughs at me, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, so yeah, because I want to open it up and I want to know this is where this goes and this goes here, and you know, I have to see it that way. And don't forget your legal page. You know, I wasn't sure if you guys were getting an ISBN or not, and that's fine. But you still have thanks and dedications and, you know, published 2021 and all that kind of thing. So what we call the legal page. So don't forget.
We have the lists of things. Barb, did your question get answered?
You're muted.
Yes, I was just wanting generic advice, like what have previous authors done wrong that we should avoid? And a corollary question that's more generic than not just our book. You say you reject some books. What are the sins that would get a book rejected? Is it sloppy writing, inappropriate stories, or what are the big sins of people who submit books to you?
Okay. Well, before I answer, Barb, for Mira, I can give you, if you can, I'll send my email to Mike. Mike can pass it on to you or my email or whatever. And I will write specifically, because what you're asking is a whole lot of questions. Well, what could be a whole lot of answers for that whole one project. But yeah, I will certainly help you on that. Okay, big sins that will have a manuscript. Yeah, sloppy writing. If there's no hook. What I tell people, and you know, other publishers will ask you for a big, you know, submission package, and it's like 28 pages long. It's just I don't have time for that. I want to see how you can write, what your story's about, and is there a hook? As I'm the PR and the salesperson of this whole group, and anything legal and any weird questions that no one knows what to do with, come see me. But I want to know if I can sell it. I mean, if there's no saleability to it, I'll be like, great, what do I do now? So, you know, I need to know if I can sell it or not. And basically, we asked for a sample of the writing and the 30-second elevator pitch. What's your hook? That's the biggest thing. For the editing department that looks at the different manuscripts, they want to know if there's, you know, is it put together well, or if it's, you know, they're not expecting stellar stuff, you know, in the rough draft or, you know, the manuscript, but is there something to work with? Or is there a bunch of plot holes and characters are missing? And oh my gosh. And one thing I will credit Chelsea on is after the decision's been made between all of them, she actually writes rejection letters because most publishers will ghost you. They won't even, they're just gone. I mean, she at least is polite and writes a rejection letter, and she's got the nicest rejection letters too, because she offers different ideas of how to firm up the manuscript and different references to look at. And in some cases, we'll invite the authors, hey, when you've got this, a little more tweaked and stuff, you can go ahead and definitely resubmit it. So, I mean, kudos to her in the fact that I raised her well. She puts on but for things that authors might make mistakes on. Well, here's how I did I wrote out a timeline, basically, an outline, not even a timeline, an outline, because I had seen so many things that go on with the wedding. And so with it starts off with getting engaged, goes through the planning, the whole timeline of the book starts engaged. And so all the stories I knew about that, and planning a wedding and all the stories I knew about that. And then the groom's dinner, the prenuptial dinners, all that, and all the stories I knew about that. So it runs the timeline of a wedding day through to leaving for the honeymoon. And that's the timeline of the book. But I had the main subject, topic 1 with a subtopic with another subtopic. And because I wanted to make sure I got everything in there. That's, I guess, the one thing as a storyteller, you don't want to walk away from the story like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot the best part, or how could I forget that part, or something that really has something to do with putting the story together. So that when anyone talks about a memoir, I'm always like, put an outline together, because it's really easy to get into the story. And then you are like, oh my gosh, that's the best part. But now you got to figure out how you're going to fit it into that story, So that would be that end, from the writer point of view. And then I've got the whole sales PR end of things too. But other questions?
Could you talk a little bit about that evaluation when you first get a solicitation?
Oh,
And maybe a little bit some of the earlier steps that you go through with the young author.
okay. Well, now I will point out that here's the gopher in me. Whenever anyone writes in and puts in a query, the first thing I do is I open it up and I forward it off to the editing department, because I'm actually not the person that makes any of the decisions about the manuscripts. I am the gatekeeper, but that's all I am, really. And when I think earlier I said that, anything book production, you talk to Chelsea, but I tell our new authors, again, if there's anything sales, legal, weird off the wall questions that don't even, have a category or anything, then talk to me. I'm the nuts and bolts of the thing. When someone is brought in, is accepted, their manuscript is accepted, then we go through, basically I hop back into the mix of it all. And I do a lot of emailing with them. Eventually, I will do a phone call with them, and I go over the contract. The contract is everything plus the kitchen sink. It's the biggest thing for me is I want to be transparent, and I'm very integrity driven. And that, of course, all goes back to I'd rather work with happy people. Happy people know what's going on, and know that they're welcome to ask me questions whenever. There's no big hidden secret. So then from the questions, the PR part of me kicks in, because even if their book isn't going to be out for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, whatever the case may be, there is a lot of PR and advertising work that goes into making them a brand. So basically, I take the person and I'm like, I need a professional headshot. And some of our authors will send me selfies or not well lit pictures or whatever. I'm like, not what I'm looking for. I need, and I send them examples of exactly what I'm looking for. And I tell them, don't send me something that has like sparkles and little rabbit ears and bunny noses. And no, when the world does, and I get those, when the world does open up, this is the picture that Barnes and Noble is going to print on a really big poster and hang in their window. This is also the picture that bookstores are going to see. And your book might look really good, but if your headshot looks awful, they're not going to have you in their store for a talk or a visit or a meet and greet. You are essentially representing their store while you're standing in their store selling your book. So if you don't meet their standards of what a professional person should look like, you're not there. You're just not going to get the gig. And that's actually really hard for me as their PR person to try to get them into any gigs if no one's kind of stupid. But anyway, so I start making the person their brand. They become the author, the walk and the talk and the thinking and the getting into gear for their book coming out. And so by the time their book does come out, people know who they are. There's a waiting list. Pre-order sales have been done. It's a whole thing that I wind up doing. The editing department will take their manuscript and start working on it. If it's a children's book, it's a different editing process than if it's a 97,000 plus word process. They go through whatever process it happens to be. If it's a children's book, the editor will not only edit it, but they also storyboard it, and then they give it to the illustrator, or at least get on the illustrator's calendar, because we do tend to run about 6 to 8 months out on our illustration calendars. That's why we've got another one, hopefully, fingers crossed, coming on. And if it's a novel, you're looking at least 8 months, 6, 8 months of editing, and then a whole lot of, okay. So when you're either done with the illustrations, or you're done with editing your novel, then you move on to the design work. That's where Becca comes in. And when that happens, that's when I really amp up the, we're done with the branding. Now we're going into the marketing the book and getting that out there. So the books start pre-orders anywhere from 45 to 60 days in advance. I send out for literary reviews on the novels and the nonfiction stuff. Not so much on the children's books. I'll send out for reviews mainly from parents, educators, kids themselves. From my point of view, it doesn't matter if Dr. So-and-so thinks that, Bobby Bear, Dr. So-and-so thinks Bobby Bear is a cute book. I want to know what the 7-year-old thinks about Bobby Bear, especially if the 7-year-old is going to become a new sibling with little kids coming into the family. So that's, I'm thinking more of a consumer point of view. So that's, just it's positioning in the market. That's what I'm going for. And then, yeah, we hit the ground running with sales, and I'll show you different ways of how to do different sales rather than just bookstores. There's so many different ways. And yeah, then we just go from there, and then we repeat the business if you have, or repeat the steps if you have another book. So yeah, we just, party keeps going.
Okay, and I see that Roger's got a question.
Actually, it's Beverly on Roger's computer.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering how soon we can send all the stories and what we have to Becca, so we know how many pages we have, and how would that help us in adding pictures and all the other things that we need to add.
If I remember correctly, talking to Laura, you guys wanted to have this book out by like October in time for Christmas holiday sales, right? Yep. Today is April. I would at least get an email out to Becca and say, hey, you know, we're still on for you, and when can you fit us into the schedule and that kind of thing. She should have it. Okay, so thinking backwards, if you were doing October 1st, October, September, well, okay, if you were to have this October 15th, you should have your proof going to Lakeside Printing no later than like around Labor Day weekend. Probably even earlier, or middle of August. The reason why is, first of all, the printer's most busy times are probably about May, June through the rest of the year. So you're jockeying for position to get onto the calendar. And the reason I give you that Labor Day, excuse me, or middle of August countdown is it's going to take you from the time your manuscript arrives. It's going to be probably, well, first of all, you should also let Laura know that something's coming in so she can have her schedule too. But if you put something in the end of, the middle of August, either right before or right after Labor Day is when your proof is going to be on the printing press. And so you'll have a proof in your hands that you can look through. And I would strongly suggest doing a physical proof, not a picture proof. Physical proof, you can look through it page by page and make sure everything's in there. The other thing I would do is, have you guys done any beta readers for your different stories in your memoir?
No,
Okay, you and there's what,
What
right?
is that?
I'm sorry, what?
What is that?
Okay, beta reader is someone who a whole different set of eyes that can read through the book and pick up something that maybe the 6 pair of eyes that are currently working on the script, you're too close to it. So, you know, maybe, and I'm going to give you another tip. Okay, everyone that's reading through the book and proofing the book, be sure you read the entire book out loud to yourself and read every word, as redundant and stupid as you might think it is. If it says the cat is crawling up the tree, read the cat is crawling up the tree. Do not let your brain skim over the smaller words or whatever. Read every word, because that's how you're going to catch all your mistakes and your typos. And is it two or there or yours or your, you know, whatever. You're going to pick it up. You have to do it out loud, as fun as that is. Have some Tylenol nearby, because I really don't think the brain, it has been designed for that much output of oxygen. I get headaches every time I read my books out loud. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this again. But
we have so many concerns based on the number of pages and white spaces. So would it be inappropriate for us to ask her to take all of our stories and put it in and see how many pages we have?
no, it would not be inappropriate at all. Matter of fact, you should probably do that sooner than later, because that
Oh,
will
good.
also give her a good idea of where you're at in the process. And
Okay.
when she should, yeah. So if your book goes in the middle of August, she should really have your entire manuscript probably like right after 4th of July. So today is middle of April. So really you've got a little over 2 months to finish what you got going on.
But we don't know, because everybody is, story is different, you know?
Well,
And
yeah.
so
Yeah,
if we knew how many pages to work on, that would really help.
yeah. When we get off the call today, or if you have time tonight, I would suggest emailing Becca what you've got so far. And you guys have Becca's email, right?
Myra can do that.
Okay.
Linda.
All right. Yeah, I would.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd get a hold of her. And Jeremy's got his hand up there.
And you didn't say what a beta reader was. If you
Oh,
could just
I'm sorry.
that
Yeah,
in
a beta reader is just an extra separate pair of eyes of someone who isn't, you know, working on it 24/7. So it's best in reality, don't give it to someone who is your bestie friend and your relative who'll be like, oh, this is so nice. Good job. You don't need that. You want someone who's like, what's this all about? And this didn't make sense to me. You know, that kind of thing. You want the critical eyes. They are your critical. Put it this way, you'd rather put it out in front of 9 people who are like, what are you thinking? Rather than putting it out to 9 million people who are like, oh my gosh, this is awful. And then you get, you know, bad reviews. So but yeah, not people who are going to glaze over it and tell you you've done a nice job. Get someone that you don't know. Yeah, if you can. I tend to have good luck getting people off of Facebook because people like to read things for free. And I want to know exactly what the general consumer thinks. But yeah, that's who a beta reader is. It's nothing special except someone who has no problem hurting your feelings about your book. So really, I'm kidding. I hope they don't. But all right, Jeremy, you had a question?
Yes, you've written adult books and children's books. Say I'm looking to write multiple books.
Mhm.
Is it really difficult to switch genres? Do they pigeonhole authors a lot?
For me,
It seems like there's. Go ahead.
oh no, what were you gonna say?
There I can only think of a couple authors who have been able to write in different genres in their career.
Well, there's two ways of looking at it. One, for me, I have so many interests, you know, whatever piques my interest and I want to write about it, that's what I do. And there you have it. I think the reason why people get pigeonholed into a certain genre is because their brand is specifically, I mean, now I think Stephen King has actually written a children's book, but most often if you say Stephen King, you're like, oh, Cujo and the rest of it, you know, Pet Cemetery, etc. And that's what he's known for. And they put so much money into that, they don't want to lose that brand. I think that's what it is really a PR, marketing, sales. That's his thing. Now I know Dr. Seuss, he wrote adult books as well, but everyone took the Dr. Seuss children's end of thing and put them over here. You can write whatever you want. But yes, some places, you know, if you have just a killer of a hit you may be pigeonholed. You can still write different things, but you won't be really known for those different things. You'll be known for this one kind of thing. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. People get veered into one thing. But you know, if you're a writer and you got stories, you just go right on ahead and write whatever you darn tootin' want.
Some authors use different names for different genres.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even within the mystery genre, you have the romantic suspense versus the psychological, and the same author will be using different names.
Yep. Pen names.
Pen names.
Yep. And I actually I have right now, I think 3 of my authors have pen names. And there's one author who is thinking about writing something completely different. And so she'll have not only her pen name, but her other ghost pen name. So, you know, and so when I talk to them like on Zoom or something, I'll call them by their real name. They're like, no, it's my author name. It's like, oh my gosh, can you just figure out what your name is? No.
What kind of shape is the publishing industry in right now? Is it, I mean, so many things change so often, and then you add COVID to it. Are more people reading? Do they read hardcover books? Do they read Kindle books? What is that? What does the market look like right now?
Okay, from my point of view, because there are different, but from what I've been keeping up with or hearing or whatever, when COVID shut down the entire world, everyone actually went running to puzzles of all things, but puzzles, then Kindles, that kind of thing. Publishing is doing very well. You know, people enjoy reading, and boy, you get the bookworms that want to read, they're going to read, you know, they're going to find whatever it takes. I mean, actually, I found some books down here a couple months ago. I went to our local bookstore. I have been known to, and I apparently did purchase 3 other Scrabble word dictionaries because, you know, you can never have enough dictionaries. I'm just pointing that out. Okay. Anyway, people want to read. Bill, that's the weird things people read. But yeah, Kindles are great for people on the go or waiting, or they don't have room in their purse, or they don't, you know, whatever. I mean, that's just one thing. One thing I have found with some of our authors will come in and they're like, well, I just want to do paperbacks. I'm like, no, you're going to do paperback and hardcover. And they're like, well, no, I don't. I'm like, yes, because libraries want hardcovers. Schools want hardcovers. Think about the people and all the wear and tear. They want the hardcovers. And some, you know, bibliophiles want hardcovers. They don't want soft covers. That's just the way that goes. Soft covers are great for parents who whose kid has latched onto a book at a bookstore and will have a complete meltdown if they don't get that book. So we spend the $10 or $15 and get the kids out of the store before, you know, nuclear war goes off. Or they just want something, a quick pickup or whatever the case may be. It really, it's a personal preference. Now, personally, I don't own a Kindle. I don't like reading things electronically. I want it in my hands. I am old school. I'm so old school. I even have a Rolodex. There you go. I'm just pointing that out. I don't use my phone. Let's see, you can take pictures with your phone, and I'm sure it could send a rocket to the moon. Who knows? Whatever. That's not my gig. I'm old school on pretty much everything. I even have a spiral bound calendar. I don't use Google Calendar. I have no idea how to do it. Because when I open my calendar, I want to see all 7 days, and I don't want to do swipe, 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 swipe. No, I'm old school. There you go. And I appreciate a good book in my hand. So yeah, it's totally up to whatever the personal preference is.
All right, thank you.
Can you walk us through a little bit stages? Like I'm also wondering, like, what's a proof? I haven't heard the word before, and so, you know, like what I mean, it sounds like is that something the printer will give us? Will they give us a couple pages?
Oh yeah.
The whole, like, how does all that kind of stuff?
Okay. Off the first file that you send, which will be around Labor Day, Laura's gonna print 1 copy. Or if you want to order 6 proofs, because 6 of you are working on it, and everyone gets a copy. And from there, seriously start it up from, you know, looking at the cover and look at absolutely everything. Is everything where it's supposed to be on the cover? And look at the binding and the spine. Is it reading, you know, it's not wrapped around or whatever. And Becca will obviously do that because she's going to get the cover template from Laura as to where everything is supposed to go. But make sure that you know, the paper and this is right. I mean, just go through it, fine tooth and comb. And again, read out loud every single word in there and make sure they are the right pictures. Oh, and on your pictures, that brings up a whole nother thing. Get a permission form, make a permission form up, find a sample permission form on Google, whatever, but get written, signed permission that you can use those photos from that person in your book. Even if it's not an ISBN and not going out on retail, you're still putting it out and you're still making money on that book. Therefore, you need permission from whoever owns that photo. And then be sure to give them photo credits, you know, on that as well. If it happens to be if you have any pictures or letters or documents or something that are not specifically owned by a person, instead it's like a historical kind of thing, you may have to get a hold of like the Historical Society or the Minnesota, whatever, and get permission to, but written permission filed and saved in a really safe place. Should anyone come back and try to be a pain in the butt, you can be like, no, I got my permission here. So that's the legal end of things that you want to do. You may also have to, if it's a document or something that is like public domain or whatever, you might have to include citations in your book with that. That is another thing that to consider. But go over fine tooth and comb and make sure that the when you're looking at it, oh, that's not a good example. Hold on here. When you're looking at it, make sure that you have enough room on your margin where you want it. You have enough room in your gutter. You don't want your words to be, you know, hanging into the gutter or cut off on the side of the page or anything like that. Make sure that all of your chapters are spelled right. I mean, you've heard the word anal retentive. That's what you're going to be with your book, because this proof is what you get to look through, give it a week, sleep on it, reread it again, whatever, make sure everything is out of there. And that's why I say take a physical proof instead of a picture proof. And if all 6 of you go, yeah, I don't see anything, or, oh, I missed, you know, there's the word to should be TO and there's an extra O, tell Becca what page, et cetera, et cetera. She'll just fix that for you. And then once everyone signs off on it, then the printer gets it back and then prints the 200 or whatever you want.
Photos, what if someone's no longer alive?
I'm sorry, what?
With photos, what if someone's no longer alive?
How did you get the photo?
It might be like a parent or someone.
Well, those people would have to sign off on the permission.
So the person
whoever,
owns the photo.
Yeah, whoever owns the photo now. Yeah. Anyway, and Jeremy, you had your hand up? Oh, you're muted there.
One or two spaces after a period.
I know. that just came out in the world. Apparently, it's okay now to have just one space, because it used to be with the old typewriters, you'd have to do space, because all of the kerning basically between the letters spaced it out, where you had to do 2 to really emphasize that was the start of a new sentence. But for the fact that we all have pre-made fonts and they all have their own spacing involved, now apparently you can get away with 1 space, which again, I am old school. I have a thing with 2 spaces. I learned 2 spaces. That's a really bad habit now. I'm glazing over it because, you know, I learned it that way. But then again, I'm not in the editing department. I'm not in the layout and the design department. They can do whatever they want. But, you know, personally on my manuscript, there's 2 spaces. Facebook posts, everything, 2 spaces. Barb?
To clarify, one of the memoirs is a tribute to my father. And I want to use this picture. It's the only portrait picture ever taken of him. He died in 1987. It's my picture, so I'm assuming I don't need my brother and sister's permission or anything.
No, it's your picture, but definitely sign a permission form, because that'll go, whoever does the safekeeping of all the permission forms, that permission form for that photo of that book will be in there. So yeah.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say never assume anything.
Pretty much, yeah.
You don't want to determine that after you've got 1,000 copies out there.
No. that would be true.
Because you still have to pay for those.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And especially once they get out into the world, you find that one person who has that one complaint out of the corner of the world that you, I mean, you didn't even know existed. They come out in the woodwork, you paid for 1,000 copies, and oh my gosh, you can't use any of them now. So make sure legally everything is tied up into a beautiful bow package, no loose ends.
And I will tell you, as a former newspaper copy editor, there are some errors that are never noticeable until they get printed.
Yeah. Yep. And Mike, I'm sure you're well, beta readers would be like customers, readers of the newspaper. They'll find every mistake ever made in the newspaper. Oh my gosh. But you could be proofing and reading it until your eyeballs fall out and you'll never see it.
I've found that I can proof something electronically on the computer 3 times. And as soon as I print it out, I have to proof it again because I will find an error. And
yeah.
yes, I'm guilty. I had 50 copies of a handout made, and then I found the typo and I threw them away and I had it redone because I'm not going to knowingly put a mistake into the hands of 50 students.
Especially if it can be traced back to you. That's the big
right.
thing. If it's got your name on it or can be traced back to you, it had better be perfect.
Perfect, that's right.
Yeah.
Bev, did you have another question, or is your hand still up?
One of Roger's stories is about one of the houses, one of 23 houses that he fixed up and resold.
Mhm.
And we took a picture of the outside. It's a current picture. He didn't take a picture when he owned it. Do we need to go to the courthouse and show that he was an owner of that house?
I don't know, Mike, what would you say? I don't know. I think I would probably get the current owner's permission because it's their house now.
Well, it's a rental house, so we'll have to find out who owns it now.
Well, yeah, go to the county assessor. They would know who pays the taxes on it.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
He had funny experience with one of the renters when he bought the house and they were fixing it up, which was 40 years ago.
For me, that falls under the category of don't risk it.
Yeah, definitely. I would go to the county assessor, see who owns it, who pays the taxes, track them down and get the permission.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Jeremy's got his hand up again. Yep.
Is the title of your book Corner Confessions?
Yep. Corner Confessions. That's the first one. And then the second one is The Lives We Live. And then the third one is actually And the Burdens We Keep. And I was actually really proud of myself. I had to pull over. I came up with Corner Confessions, and then my daughter, co-publisher, she's like, you need a name for your second book. And I'm like, I don't know, Corner Confessions 2. She goes, no, that's stupid. You got to come up with a different name. I'm like, so, and I thought about the different types of confessions that were in there, which were basically how people lie to themselves and how they accept lies just to, make things easier in the world, but the lies just never kind of go away. And so I came up with The Lives We Live. And then the last one, and it just came to me, And the Burdens We Keep. I'm like, oh my gosh, my titles are a whole Corner Confessions, The Lives We Live and the Burdens We Keep. And I was so excited. And I had to pull over to the side of the road and write it down. I was like, yay. Now all I got to do is write the third book. Well, now the third book, for the most part, is written. I just have to, fill in the empty spots and get it all organized. And then, of course, I have to read my first 2 books out loud again. Oh, gosh. Get the Tylenol. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, Mira's got a question there.
Yeah, Kiersten, would you say more about storyboarding? I suspect there's different ways, but yeah. Okay,
the 2 different ways. One is you can do it the old-fashioned, very old-fashioned, even the way I do it. Just get a bunch of pieces of paper, what I would do is if you're looking at a 6x9, if you're working with the 8.5 by 11, cut it down to a 6x9 so you have the exact trim size. Staple it up the side, you know, just like kids do when they make a book, and then start going through there and figuring it out. Now, if you want to do it on Google Docs or Word doc is how I'll do it on a computer. You can go in there and under layout, it'll ask you what is your trim size, you know, put in a 6x9, and then it's going to ask you what your margins are. If you want to for sure margin, you know, you could do an inch around. Obviously that's not going to be, you know, your outside might be a 1/2 inch to 70, you know, a 1/4 inch, or excuse me, 3/4 of an inch, but you're going to have more of a margin on the gutter because it seams there. And again, that's something Becca can help you with. But like I was saying, if you're going to do a 6x9, I would give yourself a 5x8 workspace, and you know, you guys can tweak it as you go there. But then just figure out where you want to put your pictures. You know, are you gonna maybe angle some of the pictures, or is the type gonna go around, you know, rather than all type in one picture? Is it a short picture where it's some type and then the type underneath? Don't forget, you know, the photo credits and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, it would be good if you for sure ended with having it on a Word or a Google Doc, because that's something you can send to Becca and she can get a good idea of it. But preliminary, you know, to start off with, if you need to work on a cut stapled, just so you can just get it out of your mind first. and again, as I explain it, as a brain dump, you know, on a computer or a piece of paper, write down everything that's on there. You want pictures, you got your photo credits, do you want citations, you want you know, a glossary if you need one, you got an index, or you know, the chapters. I mean, everything, then sort it out. But make sure you write it down. That way you can go ahead and cross it off. If you do it just from memory, or at least for me, I will get done with the project and go, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. You know, and so that's what I would do.
And so we've been putting it in Times New Roman, and Becca had sent us some samples, and one was really big and one was really small. One was Graham and one was Bookman. I mean, should we decide some idea of font, you know, so that we can see how it would fit? I mean, because we were looking at most of the stories we're putting like thinking about 300 words per page, but that seems like a lot if we want, you know, not too small type, and you know, and so we know that all might need to be changed, but we're at the point where we want to see the paper, you know, we want to see what that might look like. Yeah,
definitely pick a font, because that's going to help. I mean, even like a size 12 Corbel looks different from a size 12 Garamond versus a 12 Helvetica or Verdana or whatever. So figure out your type first, and that'll definitely help. The other thing to think about too, and I've had people request this on the I Do book, if you want to do a larger font, a larger type size, what, you know, considering maybe the ages of the people that are reading the book. That's another thing you know, or you could just publish 2 different books too. I mean, to begin with, I mean, do your regular size, but if you get a lot of people coming back going, I'd love to read this, but I can't read the book, you know, you may want to consider a large type size as well.
and that we would be talking to a printer about what would it cost to do this.
Yeah,
because
yeah. But with Laura over at Lakeside, when I refer you guys over there, she's going to give you the Fox Point discount versus what you would be if you fell in the door. Because with the amount of business and stuff, we do get a discount on things. And so, yeah, you're going to be getting a discount versus if you just were to come in.
And it's not only the size, but how dark a print is. I know some books, the print, it's adequate size, but my eyes have to work harder to read it, and I prefer a little darker print. My eyes are 72 years old now. And I had cataract surgery when I was 61. So it's not just the size, it's also the shading, or whatever you call it, how dark it is. We had another discussion earlier in this book project about using names. Now, on the two that I am referring to people, they're both very positive tributes to these people, and they've been dead for a very long time. So I'm using my dad's name and my professor's name. But if we have, for example, I was sexually harassed at MSU in 1982, 83, 84, before I got 4 times before I got tenure, not once after I got tenure. I would not, if I wanted to do a memoir about that experience, I would not use names. I'm assuming.
Yep, you're right. You wouldn't. You can describe what the person did. You wouldn't say specifically the person who taught this class 4th hour and this, but you could say someone in the so-and-so department, a professor or whoever in the so-and-so department.
Yeah,
you can leave it vague.
Yeah, and I'm working on a memoir now where I've changed I only use the first name, and I've changed it because I don't know where that person was at. The friend of my high school, my daughter, back in 1985 when this incident took place. And she's not negatively portrayed here, but I don't know where she's at or how she is, so I just changed. I only use the first name, and I've changed it.
Yep, that's what I did with mine. And the interesting part is when people are like, so when the people read it, they don't know it's about them. It's like, well, actually, if we call it fiction and we have that disclaimer that says, this is purely fiction and doesn't, whatever that legal it's in the book. And, if they think, gosh, this sounds very familiar. And I was in Minneapolis at this time and I know this writer, but the thing is if they don't say anything and I don't say anything and the name is different in the book, no one's the wiser, Now, if they say, oh my gosh, you wrote about me. Well, they're the one who let the cat out of the bag. And I guess really it's on them. But I could still come back and say, no, it's not about them. It's fiction. It's been labeled as fiction. It has a disclaimer that it's fiction. So, apparently they're just trying to look for their 15 minutes of fame, but it's not about them. So I can still deny it.
Okay. Well, that was how Carolyn Helbrun got caught writing as Amanda Cross. Carolyn Helbrun was the first woman tenured at Columbia University. She wrote a series, and she wrote nonfiction, and I've read both her fiction and nonfiction. And her fiction was under the pseudonym of Amanda Cross, and the setting was at a prestigious New York university, and some of her characters were so thinly disguised, people who knew that milieu knew who it was, or who they were, and that's how they figured out that Amanda Cross was really Carolyn Helbrun.
I think with the New York thing, I probably would have moved it over state into Pennsylvania and claimed prestige. You could prestigious school and it'd be Penn State, and leave it at that. Put a couple 100 miles in between.
Yeah, this was in the 1980s and the 1990s that she was writing her series.
Yeah.
And the first 3 books, nobody knew who the real author was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say too that readers will do sleuthing. We just had a nonfiction historical come out. It's working its way out. It'll be out the end of May about World War I. And actually 2 of them, World War I. So we did all the permissions and the citations, and you have to make sure everything is correct, et cetera. I mean, it's a nonfiction historical. And then we have a fiction historical fiction coming out about the Dakota U.S. War. And although it's fictional, you have to have everything correct, because your readers, especially if they're, you know, their hobby is to know everything that there ever is to know about all the wars that have ever taken place on this continent, you had better have it right, or they will crucify you, especially if it's anything that's historical, based off something historically true. So yeah. Any other questions? Or oh, we got Mira there.
I was trying to leave space in case, I don't know what that echo is, in case someone else wanted to jump in. So I'm still like thinking about printing and the darkness, and I'm wondering, is that something we talk to a designer or a printer about? And I know and I've looked through a lot of my books, and some of them are just light, and I know where they were printed and stuff. And yeah, so how do you assure those kind of things? And
well, those are the printing specs that Becca will include in there. So whoever writes to Becca, say, be sure to have this, you know, true black print, because there's varying, you know, people say that, you know, you got black or white. Oh my gosh, there are so many shades of black and so many shades of dark gray. There's a whole like 300 different degrees between all of that. But that would be a printer spec thing. And the other thing, now fortunately everything is, well, yeah, digital press, but you still got the ink on it. It's a case too where maybe some of the nozzles need to be refilled, you know, or whatever the case may be. If, you know, it's like any printing thing, you know, if you run 200 sheets through your home printer with a new cartridge of ink, you know, you've got great looking pictures, and it just kind of goes down the tubes from there. But yeah, that's something that should really be noted, starred, you know, smiley faces all over. Please make sure the ink is dark. We have old eyeballs reading this, however you want to say it. But no, even my books, you know, I can look, and the printing shades. And what's really weird is not from Lakeside. This was a different printer years ago. But some of them will be like, one word will be heavy on the ink, and then like 2 words will be really thin, like stick letters, and then it goes back to heavy, or a whole page is light and then a whole page is heavy. I'm like, did we just get this right? So that's, and actually from that's one of the reasons I switched over to Lakeside, because there are differences. Quality control is a big thing. And Laura over at Lakeside does really well by us. So, yeah.
my last question is about paper color. So as I look, you know, there's white, there's different shades of, you know, and again, is like, would printer like Lakeside, for example, have, well, these are the colors you can choose from, or are you just told? How does that part?
Well, you could choose anything you want, but there is I will have to get this for you. There is not screaming bright white. I want to say it's like a 70 pounds something, and I'll get the title of the paper, specific paper. It's white paper, so it's still on the cheap side of it. As soon as you start getting into, here, I'll show you. As soon as you start, okay, so like that's got that color, and then the interior, that's a Cougar 75 natural. That's a specialty paper. Anything past white is a specialty, and that jacks your price up. So if you're trying to keep costs down, I would suggest you do a white. It would be especially helpful. You can kind of cheat with it if you've got any white on your cover. So like Alchemist Map, for example, that's got white on the cover. And the paper is that darker white. You wouldn't really, I don't know if I have a book that has a brighter screaming white, especially something so long. If people are sitting down for a couple of hours and reading your book, they don't want to have that light reflected of a screaming white back up into their face and their eyes. But if I had printed this book, for as thick of it as it is, if I had printed in like a Cougar Natural or whatever, this book, instead of the hardcover retailing at 28, would probably retail more like 39 for this. That's how much the paper amps up the price. Now, the way we get away with it for it being white is we have white on the cover. So we can always say, well, plus in reality, but the cover was designed a long time ago before we even put the white on there, but a cream colored paper on that would look kind of ridiculous anyway. So that's other stuff to go through, but Becca can help you with that, and I can get you, there's a specific title for it, specific name, and I can get that for you. Oh, Sue has a question.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm retired, but I worked in the printing industry for 40 years
Okay.
at Corporate Graphics. And along with Corporate Graphics, there was CG book printers. So I do know quite a bit about book printing. And if you'd like, I could meet with you and help you go through some of, answer your questions to some of these fundamental questions you have. I also have an English degree, so I could be one of those extra readers you were talking about.
The beta readers
to look at. I'm not an editor, but I would be willing just to help out with some of these, something to get you rolling on these, because I've worked with it for 40 years. So.
Well, there you go. Meet Sue. She could help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's an extra set of eyes to make sure that the words are correctly spelled, and the punctuation and
Right.
redundancy, and there's no plot holes, or there's no reference to one person and then there's no mention of that person ever again, that kind of stuff.
I can sure try.
Thank you. So we have your email probably through
the
this.
invitation.
Oh,
Okay.
right. So
And
do you
actually-
do you meet in person now? Or are you still doing everything by Zoom?
We're going in that direction, and we have
Okay.
met like at Spring Lake Park where we can distance
Okay.
when it's warm enough. So
Or if we've had our shots, we could maybe
yes,
meet.
and a lot of us are having our shots, and
Yes.
so I just had my first
Okay.
hug yesterday. So
Yay.
Oh, that's a milestone.
And I
yeah.
was going to say too, Sue, if you have an opportunity, if you want to be an alpha or beta reader for Fox Point, we can always use more sets of eyes.
Okay, we'll see
Yeah,
how this one goes.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, and if anyone has any questions too for me afterwards or whatever, the best place to find me is info@foxpointpublishing.com. And that's FOXPOINTE publishing.com. The E is because, we're fancy. Yeah.
Could
But
you
yeah.
repeat the whole address, please?
Yeah, it's info@Foxpoint Publishing, and there's an E after point. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I was also a typesetter for 7 years, so I know a lot about type.
You really should, Mira, definitely talk to Sue. She's got it going on over there. I'm just.
All right. Any other questions? Mira? She's good. And Barb's good. All right. Well, thank you. I see some applause happening here for Kiersten. Thank you very much for sharing
Yes.
your vast knowledge.
Thank
especially
you.
For those
Thank you.
who are in a position right now where they're wanting to publish something. So
Exactly.
we're very appreciative.
Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, just holler on that info@foxpointpublishing.com.
Thanks for your generosity.
Oh, hey, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have yourself a great day, and thank you, Kiersten. We'll be in touch, I'm sure, about something soon.
Sounds good. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Bye.